It's ThursdAGE, and ThursdAGE is a little program that if you like, you could pronounce ThursdAGE. But it's where we get together and we talk about, well, actually everything that has to do with the adventure game engine. And today we are going to talk about Modern Age Missions Storm Warning, a brand new release for Modern Age. And the exciting part about that is that we've got a very special guest. And now you may know this person as the what would you say, the gentleman designer, the everything that I want to say is it's entirely inappropriate. So instead, I'm just going to do this.
I know.
Nice. You know what? Let's do that one more time. What do you think of that?
Oh, I'm here. I think if you just run that a few more times, that's all.
You think so? just that exploding Malcolm Shepard.
Superfluous. So,
you, sir, are anything but superfluous. Perhaps superb.
Yeah, I think we've both lost the ability to pronounce that word now. Superfluous. There we go.
That must be a Canadian thing because here in the States we say superfluous. I don't know.
Superfluous.
Superfluous is what we say. Hey, look at this. Auden says adventure giving engine. That's right.
Yes.
Hey, Brian F. Irving. Evening to you. Brian, don't think I've forgotten. I know that that you've got a spot, a chair reserved for Malcolm to come visit and hang out.
That's well, we try to give good engine.
Yeah, that's right. We do. Well, speaking of good engine, before we jump into Modern Age Missions Storm Warning, what are you doing? What's going on in the creative world of Malcolm Shepard?
Well, I am currently at various stages in working on 2 historical supplements for Fantasy Age, and can't tell you exactly what they are now, but they'll be covering 2 distinct historical periods. And if you liked Trojan War, then you will like these, similar format. Not sure what the ETA is. So I'm doing some work on those. Of course, we are getting toward the finish line for Cthulhu Awakens, and that includes working on some of the supplements, and that includes working on the zine.
Ooh, yes, the dead. Yes. What is it?
Dread Crawls.
Dread Crawls. I was the dead
issue 0 of the zine, which is the one that was a bonus for early backers, but which will also be available generally for a modest fee.
Yeah.
That's just been through its all but final layout. It looks super good. Lots of nice diagrams of non-Euclidean spaces and other things like that. The zines have a real sort of old school feel. There's a lot of use of tables and sort of creating points of inspiration through random and semi-random things, right? Okay. We have three issues planned, confusingly titled issues 0, 1, and 2.
Oh, we do that to ourselves, don't we?
We do. Well, I just thought it was cute at the time, but now, of course, I regret it.
It's 0, 1 to the mount and 0, 2 of the mount.
And what else? Oh, and of course, there is the game that I announced that we're working on that is not an age game. Swords of the Shadow Planet.
I got to tell you, friend, we have got people just knocking on every door and window. They want to know more about that. So we're going to have to do a special sort of, an evening with Malcolm where we talk about that.
Well, we'll see how it goes. So I'm currently awaiting draft revisions on that from writers.
Oh, we're
And
that far into it. I love it. Yeah.
yeah, and I am also sketching out another big core age game that I also can't tell you anything about, except that it's big, and also it is something that a few people have requested.
Oh, I see. I think
So
that's interesting. So it's big age, big age.
a big age game,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Okay. Interesting. Well,
Um,
people have. Okay. All right. We'll let folks speculate on that and ignore their guesses. Their inevitable
they're
throwing of
inevitable.
this. Yeah, the throwing of the spaghetti against the wall, as it were. But okay. Well, awesome. That's a lot of stuff, my friend.
It's a lot of stuff. I will say that not among those things um, is well, what we're talking about today, storm warning. Um,
Yeah.
yeah. So storm warning, I just want to get it out there, is a line of adventures that we have for modern age, and about half of them, maybe a little more, are designed so with kind of a flexible premise, so that they can be dropped into your campaigns for different reasons.
Nice.
And we've just come out with the fourth one. Is it the fourth or the fifth?
Oh, I was looking at the list. I
Uh,
want to say it's the fifth.
it's the fifth. All
I
right.
want to say. I want to say. I could be lying, but if I'm not lying, then great.
So, yeah, this is our fifth modern age mission. I wrote and developed the first one, Warflower, which goes way back. It is an adaptation of the demo adventure that we ran for modern age way back when it came out in 2018.
Oh wow, I was just a wee pup back then.
Oh yes, yes, certainly.
Mm.
Certainly, my hair was brown and luxurious at the time,
Right? Yeah.
and
Oh, what a pandemic will do for you.
but
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, it's the pandemic, Troy. Thank you. So, and then there was I developed feral hogs,
That's right.
which
Yeah.
was the one that basically came from a modern age stream we liked so much. We asked the authors to do that, and that is a satirical adventure set in post-apocalyptic America,
Merca.
where the bullets and energy drinks run free, as do giant mutant feral hogs.
That's right. 10 to 12 or 20 something.
Something like 20 to 50 or something.
20 to 50.
I don't
Yeah.
know.
Right. Yeah.
I just remember the original meme being something that was very like, it seemed very old school D&D monster manual entry,
Yeah.
like number appearing is, yeah. So there's that. But since then, um, development of those adventures has gone to Megan Fitzgerald. Megan
Yeah.
is a fantastic writer and developer. Megan worked on the Modern Age core book and did some really exceptional work for Threefold. All the really cool creatures and demons in Threefold are out of her imagination.
Cool.
Right. And I always liked her writing style. And I had also worked with her on a number of Onyx Path projects, sometimes alongside and sometimes for her, because she does some freelance development over there too.
Ah, cool. Okay. Good.
So, you know, so I was quite, she's the person who I think has a style that I really appreciate. And part of that is out of arrogance, because I find it similar to my own in some respects.
Right.
But she's fantastic. So I asked her if she wouldn't mind working on these. So she's been working on doing these ever since. And so Storm Warning is the latest one.
Yeah.
The other ones that she's worked on are the Alien Counter Adventure Flight 1701 and Assault on the Airy, which is a high level urban fantasy action-oriented adventure that she developed that Steve Kenson wrote.
Right. Awesome.
And then this one, written by Jose Garcia, was also developed by Megan. And this one, Storm Warning, is kind of a survival cult, survival horror involving a cult.
It dibs on survival cult as one of our.
It is kind of a survival-y cult, but I think in this one, like, you know, it's hard to say much about it without giving away too much. But the monsters in there are really creepy.
Okay, all right.
They're some of the best. Yeah, there's some of the like the vibes from those monsters are some of the creepiest. And I really have to. I've never met or spoken to Jose, but Jose, if you're out there, bravo, that's fantastic work. Like,
Jose listens. Jose,
yeah, some of these creatures are just fantastic. So,
nice. Well, real quick before we go on, I just want to call out. I don't want you to get nervous, but we've got some people who are watching the show.
Yeah,
they hang out. We've got. I
find it hard to believe every time you bring that up, but
I know.
Let us proceed.
Yeah, let us. Nate's here. I want to say hey to Nate. Rain's here. We've got Jonesy's here. He says redacted age. That's always a good one. Nate says largeage. Temp asks a question about the cult from Storm Warning. We'll get into that real quick. I'm going to jump over Hell Pigs. Yes, I like that. And then Duke's here as well. I believe I saw Duke just arrive, only a little bit late, but I'll be honest, Duke, we were a little late as well. Malcolm gets a little fussy. We got to, get makeup in, hair and makeup's got to come. And he's just real diva, that guy. Yeah, so let's cut into the questions here real fast. So I'm not going to dig too deep into the PDF because I don't want to give away anything. But if there's a page you'd like me to go to, I sure do like the cover. I mean, these logos are all just phenomenal.
Yeah, well, that's of course is thanks to Hal and Kara. So
absolutely, yeah. And I'd love, I don't know if folks noticed that. I don't know why I've noticed it some time ago, but not on my first glance. That little D6 right there hiding away.
Oh my God. you know when I noticed that die?
When?
Last month.
You're kidding me. That is so funny. Yes. I did the same thing.
For years, I've been developing this bloody game. And I did not notice the little die in there.
Little die in the gem. I love it.
Little die in the gem.
Yeah.
That, you can get a sense of my powers of observation right there. But the question, Troy.
Yes. The question is the cult from Storm Warning something like a shadow cult from Blue Rose or more like ones from Cthulhu Awakens? Or is it something different altogether?
Different altogether.
Oh, nice.
Because among other things, one of the features in some of these adventures, it was true in Warflower and it's true in Storm Warning, is that you can choose the premise or several aspects of the premise. So the cult can have either a fantastical or a science fictional premise, for example. And there are a few other elements that you can customize, but it is something that is bespoke for this adventure, right? We do have in the Modern Age Companion, we have organizational rules and things like that. So if you wanted to stat it out and expand the use of this cult and track its rise and fall, the tools are there.
Okay, nice. Okay.
In the companion, but here it has a function exclusive to that adventure.
Look at all these people. They're running around. They look like it just, the storm just must have come right in.
Well, they were warned. Now, gentle viewers, you may be noticing that it is difficult to talk about an adventure without spoiling it.
Yes.
reducing us to these quips.
Oh, geez, as if we would be.
Yes, there is
We're
cult.
above them.
There's basically the one of the things I like about this adventure is that it has a number of tracks to get you through various scenes, and even the finale can be customized, right? So it it's got a direction, but it's not railroady. So so you begin the adventure, and there are multiple lines of investigation, and those kind of things carry you through. And then the finale can be set up in a number of ways based on the initial lines of investigation and based on the taste of the GM. I will say that this is if you're doing an urban fantasy or weird modern kind of game, this is a level 1 to 4 adventure, so it's suitable to start off with.
Nice.
Right. We have generally biased these toward starter adventures, but they're not all starter adventures.
Yeah.
So I think this Warflower and Feral Hogs are all low-level adventures. I think Flight 1701 is a level 5 to 8 adventure, and then Assault on the Eyrie is 13 to 15, if I'm not mistaken. So these are things that some of them, with the exception of Feral Hogs, which is sort of an alternate universe thing, it's pretty easy to string them together.
So I want to talk about that. One of the things,
some interstitial things.
Yeah, I'm very curious about how you go, when you sit down to create supplements, and you, with an eye towards it being kind of both a tool that you can, it's another thing in the toolbox that you can kind of bring with you to other places or string together. What is the work around those different scenarios? Like what actually goes into sort of incorporating this into an arc, let's say, of all of the
you have to come up with a premise.
Okay.
Right. So, and often the premise is going to, for something like Modern Age, because there's no modern genre, but there are many different modern genres. The first thing to do is to figure out which of these genres that work in the modern period are going to be the basis of your whole arc, right? Because once you get that down, it's very easy to reskin and redefine different elements of adventures to make them fit, right? So if you're doing something that's science fictional, right?
Yeah.
Then you might start with Warflower, except that you would have the MacGuffin that Warflower revolves around maybe some kind of extraterrestrial knowledge that was recorded in the Middle Ages, because Warflower has a lot to do with a medieval text. Then you might so that acts as foreshadowing, right? And then you have the aliens maybe start to arrive in Storm Warning. Right.
Okay.
And you decide that there's a science fictional premise for Storm Warning. Right. And, then that means lead in to Flight 1701, right, which already has a science fictional premise, right?
Yeah.
And then, we do kind of have a level 9 to 12 gap in there in the adventure. So that's where, you might have to do a little work. But then you can reskin Assault on the Eyrie, which has a kind of a modern fantasy base. You can reskin that as science fiction, right?
Sure.
And the other thing that you do, of course, is you have common antagonists between them, common and recurring antagonists and allies between them, right? And that's where you might pull out your copy of Enemies and Allies. right?
Okay.
And you know, you might use if it's science fictional, then you might go with some of the technology oriented NPCs in there, right? Perhaps they have an advantage because of alien technology, or you might reskin some of the fantasy and horror entities in there.
Okay. No, so when you're looking at the different pieces of the expertise that go into, retooling or sort of borrowing from this and a pinch of that, what is the actual what should you do going into that? Like, how do you prepare your sort of process? So, is it just familiarize yourself with the material and then find where you want your story to be woven in, and then sprinkle some creeps in there and call it done? Or
Well, I
what?
mean, if you're linking together adventures like this, right?
Yeah.
Again, you sit down, you figure out what you want the common genre to be. You figure out the genre and the theme, and what the common elements across adventures are going to be, especially when it comes to NPCs and creatures and organizations and things, because there
Yeah.
needs commonality for it to really feel like an arc, right? So that's the main work you do is at the beginning, actually reskinning stuff so that a fantasy monster is an alien is actually pretty trivial, right? Because 90% of it is going to hang on your description, right?
Sure.
Um, you might tweak a couple of things if you want some kind of recurring effect, like if there's a bunch of mind control conspiracy stuff, right? You want to give more things mind control powers or resistance to mind control powers or something that interacts with that particular lever, right? If you
Sure.
decide to use it. The funny thing is actually, I was quite impressed reading the collected astonishing adventures to cross this over with Eminem Monday, because the collected astonishing adventures has some very explicit instructions for turning the adventures in there into individual campaign arcs.
Yeah. And the collected works being the astonishing adventures
Adventures assembled.
assembled. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there's some great advice in there, and it has the strength because Eminem, of course, has its own setting, and it has persistent heroes and villains. Then in Astonishing Adventures Assembled, they go, well, let's say you want this particular villain to be the mastermind behind all of this stuff, and if you do that, you'll do this, and this, right? We don't have that power doing modern age missions because we don't have that same kind, like, Threefold is kind of our canonical setting, and we have a separate adventure series for it. But we don't have, a cast of characters that are super specific to modern age as a general game beyond the iconics. So that is where, you, the GM, are going to have to fill that in by bringing in your own cast of characters and things like
Real
that.
quickly, would you do me a favor? Just because I think I get it, but I'll be the dumb one. The iconics, kind of explain because
Okay,
they
the
appear.
iconic characters are, may notice when you're reading through various modern age books that there's always you always see the same people in illustrations,
Yeah.
right? Well, those people, they actually have character names, and they don't have game stats because we want to use them in many different examples, but they have general themes. So they're the Asian dude who always has a gun is Brian. And Brian is basically our range combat soldiery kind of of person, right?
Okay.
You know, and we have our close range combatant Amy, a tough woman who you often see armed with a kukri. We have Sean, and they're the socially oriented character in examples. And so on and so forth.
Okay.
I am actually struggling to remember. Oh yes, and Jeff, who is our
Good old Jeff.
investigation oriented person, and so on and so forth. But these iconics are handy because when I do art notes, I don't have to go, this person with the following characteristics is in this scenario. I can just say Amy, and it'll be Amy in a fight, right? Or Sean is talking to a person, and I already have written out what Sean looks like and what they wear and everything like that. So we have these persistent examples that go from book to book.
I like it. I like it. And so that was sort of to kind of maintain a continuity, to kind of ease, the kind of the need for sort of a thread, because they appear across age.
Yeah. Well, it gives you I think it's great because it gives you a sense that you're watching a campaign through.
Yes, right.
You're watching a campaign in play and the same characters in different scenarios, right? Which I think is really cool. And it creates consistency. I think it makes examples and things easier to remember, right? We don't quite have, but for those ones, we don't have a specific setting, right? So we can put them in all kinds of scenarios, right?
Gotcha.
So
what is the in-world sort of trope or sort of understanding of why you will see them in like Cthulhu Awakens, but also in Modern Age Mission somewhere or something?
Well, there's no real justification for it, right?
Okay.
They're just these example characters. In
I see.
Awakens, some of the iconics are a little different, right?
Yeah.
Similarly, in the threefold setting, we have some additional iconics, and we have variations on the original ones as well, right?
Got you. Okay. And so they serve as kind of a point, a character, a plot sort of hook that you can just sort of utilize as a tool in a space, as a kind of caricature of.
You certainly could use them as NPCs, but they don't have stats or anything. The idea is to immerse, it's really for it's really to help you engage with the books better.
Okay, I gotcha.
Right.
And now, the inevitable questions come up. We've got Temp is asking, is there a link, some pre-generated characters, which book has them, including stats? I don't think we've got something like that. And I know
we don't set up the iconics so that they can do all kinds of stuff without us worrying about, whether or not they have the talent or focus or whatever. I mean, conceivably we could stat them up, and I do readily acknowledge that something that probably Age could do better is more pre-gens.
Yeah, sure.
But I think I think our main problem with that is that making characters takes a lot of time.
It does.
So people don't want to do it. Although, the Age is not bad for that. I'm playing in a Modern Age game that I am not running right now. And my little modern sorcerer dude has hit 10th level. And it's been fun to do different things with the advancement scheme.
With people, for people rather, who are, and let's just presume everybody is, how would you say, dumb? No, let's just presume that a person's hearing about sort of the progression system for the first time as it relates to this discussion. Describe
Mhm.
that just a little bit. Like how long? Where is 10 on the scale of how strong am I?
Oh, well, we generally have a 20 level
Okay,
scale in the age games, and I would say that the first 10 levels are the sweet spot of the system, right?
okay,
Um, High level games can be super interesting, but there is, we do have to build some token diminishing returns in, although it's
sure.
less prevalent in Fantasy Age, especially in the second edition now,
So
where we've added a couple of new options and things.
when you say that it gets interesting, what do you mean? As when you
Well,
get sort of
there's, in well, in lots of sort of level based games or games with pretty robust progression, there's always the idea of a sweet spot, which is the range of power that the rules really work well with,
sure,
right? And generally that's not like the lowest levels because you don't have access to all the bells and whistles of the game. So
gotcha.
I would say that, once you've hit level 4 or 5, you're starting to sort of maximally involve yourself, because that's when it's possible to max out on some talents. You get your first specialization in modern age. So there's a lot of fun stuff to do, but you're not so powerful that your niche doesn't matter.
Okay,
Although we do
gotcha.
a pretty good job, now that I have had a chance to, road test the system slowly, because I've played in a number of games where we've advanced to 10th or higher now, organically, like over the course of play.
Right.
Uh, and it seems to work pretty well in having each character kind of preserve their niche, right? So my character in the current game, I'm playing in a sort of bespoke fantasy cyberpunk setting, is this trickster sorcerer type. So I have a bunch of arcana that I use that are good at doing indirect things, like illusion and machine. Machine arcana is super fun to play with, by the way. And meanwhile, there's another character in our party who is, does the mind control psychic blast stuff, right? And we have very distinctive ways of going about stuff, and haven't really trod into each other's territory, right? And
Okay.
meanwhile, we have a couple of combatants, like we have kind of an ogre bruiser guy, and a gunslinger, and they all seem to, we all seem to work together, right? There's
Right.
nobody who overpowers everybody else. So I'm happy to see that it remains robust, because one of the things that people often have trouble with modern age is that we have levels but no classes, right?
Right.
So you don't see that in very many games. So that leads to the question, well, can I horn in on other people's stuff with impunity?
Yeah.
And you can't really. The system doesn't really let you do it.
Okay, good. I mean, by design, I suppose. So Nate
Yes.
says, would age be a good system for a Naruto universe RPG?
I can't answer that because I know almost nothing about Naruto.
Yeah, yeah.
Because I'm old.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Okay, I gotcha. So, thinking about this new
Also, I'm
modern
a
age,
bigger fan of JoJo. So,
I don't know who any of this is.
oh,
Nate says,
JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. Oh,
no.
I
I think
love
I'm a
it.
JoJo Siwa.
It's JoJo's Bizarre Adventure is a very long running manga that has been getting an anime adaptation from Netflix, and it
Nice.
involves like handsome men with superpowers striking fancy classical poses, and dressing up nice. So I'm into all of those
You
things.
say right up your alley, sir. Right up your
Yes.
alley.
Yes.
The casting director will be calling shortly.
Mhm.
So here's the question then. If you're eh, one of the things that people are really into is how flexible the systems, how flexible the system is, and how it can be adapted to, sort of be a world wherein you do, I don't know, like some kind of like a crack team of investigators slash explosion experts in a van that drives around and et cetera, et cetera.
Mhm.
Or like let's say a Charlie's Angel.
Mhm.
When you think about, um, especially with storm warning, where would you like if you could borrow or overlay some popular culture to infuse this to kind of create a thing, what would you do?
Oh, you mean what show would I put the adventure on?
Yeah, show or whatever, whatever you got
I
rolling
guess
around in
I'd
there.
put it on like, well, Fringe or the X Files or something like that.
I
Is
was
there a
thinking like,
show that fills that niche right now?
yeah,
Is
okay.
anybody aware of that?
I'm not.
Streaming has destroyed me for keeping up with television.
Same. Yeah, episodic anything is like what?
Yeah.
But no, I'm thinking. How about let's say the oh shoot, I had it and then I lost it. Um, the Silver Spoons
The Silver Spoons.
or Three's Company.
Three's Company.
You don't
We're
remember
just gonna
Silver Spoons with a
we
Ricky
just don't want
Schroeder?
to sell anything to anyone under 45 today, do we?
Listen, Jack Tripper, one of the best characters on
Yeah.
TV ever. Or yeah, we could do Maud. How about that?
Mod. Ah.
Yeah.
Um,
These are all very not so much modern. I mean, contextually,
yeah, I'm not
sure, but
sure how, I mean, that gets the one of the great, the great design barriers of the forum, which is like, how the heck do we do sitcoms,
right.
right?
That's right. Yeah.
Like even the most experimental edge of indie RPGs doesn't seem to be able to handle sitcoms.
Yeah. No.
So,
Absolutely. Yeah. It's a tough one.
well, it's hard because how do you sitcoms simulate spontaneous wit, right? But are
Yes.
not spontaneous wit, whereas RPGs are by definition kind of spontaneous. I know that a few years ago, Pelgrane came out with the Dying Earth RPG, not to be confused with the Goodman Games Dying Earth project that just came out, although they're based on the same intellectual property, and I have them both, and they're both great. But the Dying Earth RPG, because it's based on the work of Jack Vance, and Jack Vance was known for very complex, witty sentences.
Okay.
One of the suggestions, and this is designed by the great Robin Laws, was that you write down witty phrases ahead of time, and then you actively incorporate them in play, and you get a little benefit in the system for doing that.
Okay. Okay. I like that. That's clever.
Yeah.
That's very clever. I like that as a mechanism anyway. I mean, that has a lot of actual sort of application in other
Yeah,
worlds.
I was originally resistant to it because, I believe strongly in the, improvisation based nature of the forum, but,
Yeah.
you can cheat and it's fine. Like I've learned to love it, right?
Yeah.
Like this is the thing that gets me a lot of times. People had to often have very doctrinaire ideas about what games are and what they can be. And they get mad when games don't fit a particular shape.
Yeah.
But I find that, it's just more for me to get inspired by,
Yeah.
right? Um,
Now, was that oftentimes that kind of, I'll say tolerance or sort of, giving over to that there are more than, there's more than one way to play a game, especially if you're the designer of that game and you
yeah.
see people going, you kind of maybe in a direction that you didn't anticipate. I'm imagining that's more fun than it is frustrating because it's sort of taking your work and making it, it's inspiring all of that sort of free, extemporaneous play.
Oh, it's
Now,
great. And
was it
sometimes,
hard? Oh, so go ahead.
oh, and sometimes, they're figuring, it's when you see a mixture of innovation and also people digging up stuff that maybe you buried in there for them to find.
I got it.
Like, there are people who are very opposed to the idea of having subtext in games, right? And my perspective is that it's inevitable, so you may as well take control of it.
Okay, so
Uh,
for folks who are not as big-brained, describe what you mean there, and
so
what's controversial.
something implied in the rules or adventure or something like that, or the setting or something like that. Something that's implied but not explicitly stated.
I see, I see, and the concern over that is that it creates confusion, or
Well, that if you want to put something in there, just say it, right? Don't
sure,
make
why
it
not? Yeah.
subtext, make it text. But my position is that, well, one, it's more fun with the subtext and it gives it more depth. So even if you're not looking for the subtext, you feel that there's more as you're reading it and as you're implementing it, and it feels a little more inspiring. And the second is you will always put subtext, even if you don't mean to.
I was gonna say because that's what I originally was gonna ask. Like, isn't it all subtext to some degree? I don't mean to be nihilist about it, but I mean it just feels like there's a certain level of we can't help ourselves.
Well, yeah, we can't help ourselves. Well, that is it is the postmodern condition, right? Is
Sure.
that, you know, we know how little control we have over what we say,
Right.
even when we're saying it ourselves.
Sometimes
Uh,
watching ourselves, yeah, as witness to
right?
our own. Yes, yes. Okay. Well, that definitely makes sense to me. And I guess the question that I was getting at, or wanting to get to, was, I find you don't start out with some of the best qualities of a developer or designer. You learn as you season and you kind of get exposed to things. You've learned to kind of give up in some areas, or give over, not necessarily give up. It's not a
Yeah.
capitulation, more if it's an understanding and a sort of reimagining of your relationship with those issues that might, have stood out to you in your younger days. What were those? Like, I mean, outside of, like, what were the things that you now look back and go, I might have, that hill might not have been the one to, strap myself down.
Oh, tons and tons of things. Tons and tons of things. Let me try and think of. I guess one of them is that when we talk about in-game social organizations, and this was a
Yeah.
big one when I was doing work for when I was doing work on White Wolf properties, right? Because White Wolf properties often have very intensive fictional societies, right?
Yeah.
There's always the tension between youthful obedience by the characters
Yes.
and having, wild and crazy folks who do whatever they want.
Oh, sure. The
Right?
cunning folks playing the game of whatever.
Yeah. And I think initially I thought that, well, okay. When initially I thought, well, you know what White Wolf games need? They need characters. They need more characters questioning the premise of the setting, right? So, when I did some of my early work, someone would tell you, oh, being a part of the secret society is great. And then I'd have a viewpoint character go, no, isn't it crap because this, and this? And, the conclusion was, well, what are you going to do? So I think since then, I've kind of come to a more nuanced view where you need to also make the secret society feel worth joining.
Right. Okay. Sure.
Right?
Sure.
Because you need to sell it to the player, right?
Yeah.
Um, and this was
It's
something I thought about pretty hard for Threefold, right? Because I really wanted sort of the main well, I kind of did two things, right? The main PC organization, the Sodality, which are kind of like, you know, they're idealistic like Starfleet and Star Trek, but they're interdimensional.
Okay.
Is that I wanted them to be good guys, right? And I wanted them to do the things the good guys do and have restraints on their behavior that good guys have, right? And what and then there's another sort of PC focal organization, Athon, which is a little more sinister and you can be a little more critical of it and so on and so forth, right?
Right.
But it still has reasons for existing. And one of the things that that I've learned since then, so this is a little recent, I guess, is that I think if I were to do it again, or if I were to get a chance to write more threefold, it would be to really immerse the characters in the particulars of the organization, because having a moral argument is well and good, but immersion isn't just about saying that your character should really be doing things with these cool folks, right? It's also getting them to feel that they're already there. So one example is, I'm going to talk about Star Trek again because I like Star Trek too much.
Yeah.
So here's the thing. If you suddenly appeared on the Starship Enterprise,
Yes.
right? You would basically be able to figure it out, wouldn't you? Because you've seen Star Trek, you know what a tricorder is, you know what a phaser is.
Yeah.
With some jogging, you can, remember that, the red shirts are working in engineering or they're getting eaten by aliens. And, the gold shirts are, in command, and the blue shirts are doing science stuff. And because you're there, right? And people will talk about the ideals in Star Trek that they like, but I think what often gets them to commit is they can imagine being on that ship, right? Yeah. And when you look at a game that has really succeeded with immersion, like Vampire the Masquerade, for example, right? It's got, the different clans have different symbols, and those symbols exist in the game, right?
Yeah.
And they have customs. And if you want to go to a vampire meeting, here are the rules you have to follow,
right?
And so on and so forth. So those particulars make you think you're there already, right?
Yeah.
So I would probably do more immersive stuff if I were to do it again, and I would try to convince more through immersion.
Okay.
Another example, and this is going way back, something that perhaps only Chris Pramus and I will appreciate is if anybody remembers the old Dungeons and Dragons Gazetteers. And they were like fantasy nations, often based on real nations. So there'd be like fantasy Vikings and the fantasy Mongols and things like that.
Yeah.
But one of the great things is that they would have an insert or section that is that would be how an assortment of people in that, visiting that culture, see that culture, right?
Okay.
So for the fantasy Vikings one, there was like, a local dwarf and a son of, a wizard who knows all about the world and has traveled around, but is originally from the area, and a warrior who is an experienced adventurer, right? So, they would stage them as conversations with these people, or them sort of monologuing about like, well, this is what it's like to, serve a jarl, or so on and so forth. And that makes you feel like you're there. And I want to do more stuff like that. I love it. And I'm only now getting a sense. I always liked these kind of immersion factors, but only now am I getting a sense of what they do. Like,
okay.
There's one thing. It's one thing to say that, that you like something, but if you want to design or develop in it, you have to know why you like it, because why you
Mhm.
like it is often why other people like it.
Right.
And you need to find a way to be coherent about your desires and
Well, here's a question
evangelize,
for you.
right?
Have you found in your uh in your progression as a developer that you find as much texture in the things that you think you don't like?
Oh,
Aspects
the
of
things I don't like.
yeah.
Sometimes, yeah, yeah. There's a lot of, I am so much into the Kool-Aid now that sometimes I will buy games that, I don't particularly like because I think they have something in them
Yeah. Yeah.
to tell me or to teach me. I'm not going to name those games because,
Well,
but
that would
there's
be
one where
untoward.
like I don't even, I'm not going to name this game because this is one where I don't even like the designer as a person.
Okay.
but I, but I bought the game because there was a really innovative system of kind of top down organization management.
Okay.
And I'm like, oh man, that is great stuff. And I want to, I want to have some reactive thoughts to it, right?
Yeah.
Even if I'm not going to play the game or run the game, um, you know. And there are also games that have like one thing that's really cool, even though I might be neutral about other aspects about it. Like, you know, I don't dislike Fate, but Fate is not my favorite system in the world, right?
Okay.
I think it's perfectly workable. However, aspects are amazing. Aspects are a particular mechanic in Fate that are amazing. They are so amazing that you don't really need the rest of Fate. The conceptual the conceptual basis of aspects is so powerful that even reading about them is transformative.
Hey, real quick, I want to say
So
hey to Evil Intent,
yeah.
over hanging out over on Cake.
Yeah.
That's a new space that we're broadcasting to. So it's
Oh yeah,
really, yeah,
cool.
yeah. So it's good to see you, friend.
Um,
Intent to be damned. We're glad you're here.
yes.
Hey, go ahead. I want to finish your thought, but then we got a couple good questions I want to get into.
Okay. Well, I'm basically done.
Okay, sure. I mean, are you ever really done? Let's
No, I
see
tend to go
here.
on.
That's not what I was saying, but I know what you're saying. So Temp asks, so specific to modern age missions, which is sort of
Mhm.
what we're debuting. Actually, modern age missions storm warning is really just the excuse to get you on camera and have conversations.
Mhm.
Who knows where we'll go, as evidenced by our "Let's Create a Character" episode.
Mhm.
I think we created an existential crisis. But where is the location? I'm imagining, do you need to have a tropical space where, everybody's hanging out in
Not
there?
necessarily tropical, but it's got to be by the ocean.
Uh-huh.
That's
There you go.
basically it, right? Um,
Gotcha. Well, so there you go. Yeah. So you Ted was
it
just
has to
wondering
be,
which location would be preferred for storm warning.
yeah, and not in the winter if the winter's going to be super cold. Like
Got you.
I wouldn't run it in, I wouldn't set it in Newfoundland in December. Right. I guess
Nice.
you
Yeah.
you could still reskin it for that. Right. But you'd probably have to add some more environmental stuff, right?
Yeah, Evil Intent is funny. It says the first time actually being able to host and have a target to raid. There's not a lot of tabletop roleplay stuff going on over at Kickin', but we're gonna keep doing it until
Mm.
everyone comes over and joins us. But David Bullock says bad examples are still examples.
That's very true.
Very true. I'm going to make that
Um,
into a T-shirt or a tattoo.
yeah. I mean, sometimes you do also like, encounter negative examples and you will absolutely not do it that way. But, the less said about that, the better.
Sure. I mean, we're here to
Um,
create. Yeah.
yes.
Yeah.
Speaking of online spaces, Troy,
Yes.
don't we have a Threads presence now? Didn't my segue seem completely organic?
It did. It really did. I'm quite impressed. You should do this for a living. Well,
Oh,
I gotta say, yes, we're on Threads, but I think that here's the thing. Are we on Thread? I mean, it just kind of popped out of
it's
nowhere.
Threadsta, I think.
The singular thread.
Yeah, yeah. As you
I,
can tell, our presence is very new because we're not sure what it is.
That's right. And
But we're there.
yeah, we're there. It wouldn't stop us, right?
The cart is careening fully before the horse.
The horse is like,
The
I give
horse
up.
is looking downhill at the cart with
That's
alarm.
right. The horse is saying, I don't need another social network. That's what the horse is saying. Listen, let me just take a moment to talk a little bit about this. I really am at a loss for why Facebook or Meta, Facebook and Instagram's parent organization would decide that they want to create another social network. And maybe it's to catch the Twitter vibe or what have you, but boy, I'm telling you, the way that they've got this set up is it's just bizarre.
Yeah,
It's a
it's certainly
fire hose of go ahead.
Yeah. Like it's superficially a Twitter alike, but they also say, well, if there are more Twitter alikes, we will share with them.
What does
Share
that
with them until they are
mean?
crushed.
Yeah, we will share them in half.
Yes, we'll share them in half
until they draw their last breath.
Yeah, and yes, as noted, Twitter is indeed running down.
That's the art I put out for us.
Oh, fantastic.
Yes, in the wild, 3 or more social media platforms gathered together is called an onerous abundance. Follow us for more fun collective nouns facts. Yes, which is what we are famously known for. And when you go to Threads, it's Threads. Okay, it is Threads. When you go to Threads, and now I see. Okay, so I got to say this one thing, and me, I try not to be too crass or sort of, I don't like to work blue, as it were. But the logo for Threads, do you see right up the top there, the little, I guess it's a thread. But when you look at it, it kind of looks like you might want to call the social network cubes. I mean, it is just, it's so, yeah. I mean, so
I like our kind of slime logo. I think that could be a social media service in of itself. Slime, why?
I'm glad that you picked up on my commentary there.
Users write individual spurts.
Yes, indeed.
And watch them drip down on their feeds.
Gross.
Yeah.
And perhaps a tabletop role playing game in the making.
Oh no.
Okay, well, so listen. Are you kidding me? It's already 3:05. Malcolm, how can we do this every single time?
Because I talk too much, Troy.
No, I enjoy it, and honestly, ThursdAGE is here to really, at the end of the day, please me.
I mean, as long as the two of us are having a good time, I'm not even. I don't even know why you turn the feed on. Honestly,
because I love it.
You can just have a little chat, and
I love it.
We anybody's business.
It's right, exactly. Everybody here enjoys it as well. Hey, I want to thank the chat for hanging out and chatting with us and asking great questions. Now you know that the Modern Age missions, Storm Warning, and all the other Modern Age missions are just hanging out in the Green Ronin online store. We'll drop links to that here in a moment. But in addition, you got some cool stuff coming out. I mean, we're going to see. Cthulhu Awakens is right around the corner.
It's very PDF release is close. I don't want to get into specifics because you never know what happens between now and Gen Con, but it's close.
Everybody knows what to expect, and that is that every time you bring it up, we add another month to the timeline.
Please don't say that.
We don't. I'm excited about that. We got an actual play coming on the heels of that. You've got. We do need to get you back in to talk about this new project.
Yes. Yes.
I'm.
One or
Everybody is
more of
just
the
in social.
projects. Oh yeah, and oh yeah, one of the neat things too. Speaking of streams, is of course one of the things that we did that wasn't part of the initial announcement for Cthulhu Awakens or the Kickstarter or anything else. We decided to do it just because we wanted to do it. Was that we adapted the first run of the Revelations of the Bacchae stream.
That's right.
Right.
Yeah.
So that will be appearing as well as a short PDF.
Nice.
Sort of a modified adventure format because we're kind of expanding Ian's notes there. Right.
Yeah. Well, fun. I like that. And then that'll be the part 2 of our actual play,
Yeah.
wherein I've been told to buckle up. That's going to be a
Well,
little crazy.
and maybe we'll adapt that too.
Hey, I like the sound of that.
Mhm.
All right, my friend. Well, Malcolm, thank you so much for hanging out with us again. We'll have you back because we like you, and you got good things to say and good things to share, and updates and stuff are fun. I want to thank everyone in the chat. Hey, don't forget to come back for Mutants and Masterminds Monday. That happens every Monday at 2 p.m. Pacific, 5 p.m. Eastern, and then ThursdAGE, of course, every Thursday. Next Thursday is going to be a very great show. We're having some guests on, some new folks who are going to be dabbling with modern age, as a matter of fact, and I'm looking forward to chatting with them. But Tuesday, Alex Thomas is going to do his developer. He gets on, and basically, it's the joy of game mastering for Mutants and Masterminds, and he gets into the weeds. It's nerdy. It's fun. Does a great job. So it'll be super awesome. And with that, I say thanks, everybody. Have a great rest of your weekend, and we'll see you on Monday.
Yes.